Welcome to PRATHAM Test Prep. I hope you guys are doing well. And I'm Ashish Bhargav. So in this YouTube session, we discuss about daily news analysis, and that analysis is very important for the students who is preparing for CUET exam, one who is preparing for CLAT exam, one who is preparing for AILET exam. So this session is from Monday to Friday from 11:30 a.m. and we will discuss about at the end of the YouTube session. We discussed about 3 to 5 questions that is very essential for those one who is preparing for the exam. So in this that we discuss about lots of article in this today class, like from the inflation. If you talk about inflation, so what exactly the inflation it is, inflations, who measures inflation in India, and what are the tools of RBI monetary policy to measure the inflation. And then we discuss about non-communicable disease. What is the role of WHO, and what is the concern of India for non-communicable disease? Is there any initiative that government are doing this? So that we will discuss. So once again, welcome to everyone. One who is watching this YouTube session, please share to each and every one so that the students can get benefited. So let's discuss. Here is the quote of the day: is the capacity to learn is a gift, the ability to learn is a skill, the willingness to learn is a choice. So we try to learn because this is the YouTube session. And why we discussing about all these things? Because the reason behind, the students can get benefited. So there are certain kind of students who went to the school, but once he or she reached from the school, they can get they can watch the YouTube session. So you can get a fair idea of what kind of questions is used to ask in your exam. So ability to learn is a skill, and the willingness to learn is a choice. Further moving to the next, here is a very great quote of education, the most powerful weapon which you can change, which you can use to change the world. That is the quote of Nelson Mandela. And it is a new initiative. Our new initiative is questions of the day, and this question that in this questions of the day we will discuss. We will ask about 3 to 5 questions at the YouTube live session, because end of the YouTube live session, which means that after the once the class is was to an end, we will discuss about 3 to 5 questions, so that you need to solve the questions. Because the reason like, if you are able to solve such questions, then you can self evaluate yourself whether you are capable to solve the questions or not. Initially you will see might be 3 out of 3 questions would be incorrect, might be out of 3 there are 2 would be incorrect, all the questions would be incorrect. So initially you will get kind of the feeling of frustration that is not beyond of that is not a cup of my tea. But later on you will see the improvement, like 3 out of 3 questions answers would be correct. So try to solve, at least the answer would be incorrect or not, that is not an issue. But you have to develop such kind of temperament that is very essential for the students for who is preparing for the competitive exams. Because as we know that as we know that CBSE board exam and your exam, like for example like CTET, like so CUET and CLAT and AILET, that is something different. Because in the board exam, that most of the students is from the subjective kind of questions you need to define, but here is the objective type of questions is used to ask. So here is the first article. So government announced ban on all types of firecrackers till January 1st. So this is a kind, not as political news. So restrictions imposed every year during Hindu festival BJP. So here is BJP quotation mentioned, like it's every year the same thing is doing. But we have to know like who banned crackers in Delhi or India. Who banned crackers? The answer would be NGT. What exactly the NGT is? National Green Tribunal. Is National Green Tribunal. National Green Tribunal. And what are the implications? So National Green Tribunal is banning because as we know that PM 2.5 is increasing too much in the atmosphere. So that's why government is trying to reduce the amount of pollution in the city. This is the main role of NGT. So if we talk about in the background, we need to keep an eye on that. Like the Supreme Court had banned the use of sale of toxic crackers during the celebration owing to Diwali, Christmas, basis of petition filed by the two infants. So pollution, especially firecrackers, had made Delhi a gas chamber. So what was the order of NGT, National Green Tribunal? So National Green Tribunals is like emphasizing to the people to use the green crackers, which use less polluting raw material, would be permitted to Christmas and New Year in areas where the ambient air quality was in the moderate or below categories. However, owing to the COVID-19 pandemic, NGT again prohibited the sale and use of firecrackers. Firecrackers company argued that the ban was impediment to their livelihoods. Impediment, which means that means we can say the obstacle of their livelihood, because as we know that in an argument we can say tribunal has reasoned that right to business is not absolute power. Absolute power, which means that the government are not enforced, government has not we can say like denying to follow this. Right to business is not absolute. Article 19(1)(j). There is no right to violate air quality and noise level norms. This is already enshrined in our constitution. So being like, because as we know that in constitution there is a fundamental rights also. There is a fundamental rights also and there are fundamental duties also. So we have to think about in the violation of fundamental rights, we directly go to the Supreme Court, then the High Court and Supreme Court issues the writs like we had discussed in the earlier class, like habeas corpus, certiorari, mandamus. But we need to look it very carefully here. But what about the fundamental duties? So every citizen of the country is duty to like spread like fraternity, spread brotherhood, or we can say like to neat and clean of the environment. So this is already instructed in the Article 19 also. Right to business is not absolute. But what are the consequences if the firecrackers is banned in the India? Like we can say the businessman who is doing this, like the one who is having crackers business, like as we can say there is a place in Tamil Nadu is Kawasaki. So how the consequences impacted on the person who is selling the crackers? This is the what you need to keep an eye on that. So harmful impact of crackers. Firecrackers contain a lot of heavy metal. Heavy metal, which means that it is stick to your lungs. Heavy metal, which means that it is stick to your lungs, and toxic chemicals like cadmium, lead, chromium, aluminium, manganese, nitrate, carbon monoxide. As you know that carbon monoxide, why it has mentioned monoxide? So as we know that here it is CO2. So what we say carbon dioxide. Di means 2, tri means 3, di means 2, tri 3, poly 4, penta, hexa, hepta, ona, octa, nona and deca. So if we have a one molecule less, then we become CO. So if we CO2 से अगर आप एक molecules को निकालेंगे तो आपका क्या बनेगा CO, which is the formula of carbon monoxide. So carbon monoxide is so dangerous. Once the people start inhaling this, for example, carbon monoxide आपके घर में भी होते हैं. Like आपके LPG सिलेंडर है, अगर आपने गैस खुला छोड़ रखा है उसको आप इनहेल करना शुरू कर दो एक बंद कमरे के अंदर, that is also carbon monoxide, right? और जो आपके जो पाइप्स होते हैं, फ्लेवर्स, हुक्का होती है, उसमें भी अगर आपने बहुत ज़्यादा इनहेल करा तो आपके बॉडी में कार्बन मोनोऑक्साइड बननी शुरू हो जाती है. तो विच इज़ वेरी लाइक आपके जो ब्लड सिस्टम होती है उसको, जो आपका सब ब्लड सर्कुलेटरी सिस्टम है, समहाउ इट इज़ वेरी लाइक detrimental for that things. And copper, potassium, sodium, zinc oxide, manganese oxide, these chemicals if inhaled or ingested can cause severe effect in health and people like heart disease, respiratory. देखते हैं इसमें क्या कैसे impact होती है. If we talk about like charcoal is nothing but we can say like similar like coal, इसे हम कोयला कहते हैं. तो charcoal, potassium, nitrate and sulfur. फिर इसमें क्रैकर्स में यूज इन क्रैकर्स ब्लैक पाउडर विच इज़ प्राइमरी फ्यूल इन द क्रैकर्स. हेल्थ हैजर्ड क्या है? द डस्ट रिलीज इन हैजर्डियस व्हेन इनहेल्ड डिफरेंट कंपाउंड फॉर्म कैन बी कार्सिनोजेनिक व्हिच इज कॉज समहाउ लेटर ऑन दैट इज फॉर्म इनटू कैंसर. स्ट्रॉन्टियम एंड लीथियम यूज इन क्रैकर्स कलरिंग एजेंट होते हैं. आपके रेड कलर के जो एजेंट आप देखते हैं क्रैकर्स के अंदर किसकी वजह से होता है? वो लीथियम की वजह से होता है या स्ट्रॉन्टियम की वजह से होता है. चारकोल के यूज़ करते हैं, प्राइमरी मेन फ्यूल होता है आपका उसके अंदर. ये डस्ट जब आप देखेंगे, आप हेल्थ हजार्ड क्या होता है, जब ये आपके ऊपर के साइड को जब आना शुरू होता है तो उसमें से आपके बहुत सारे केमिकल रिलीज होती है. जो कलरिंग एजेंट होती है वो आपकी होती है स्ट्रॉन्टियम और लीथियम. स्ट्रॉन्टियम कैन रिप्लेस कैल्शियम इन द बॉडी विच कैन बी टॉक्सिक. लीथियम रिलीज हार्मफुल फ्यूम्स. तो आपके जो बोन्स में जो कैल्शियम होते हैं उसके अमाउंट को ही कम करता है स्ट्रोंटियम। बेरियम होता है, ये भी कलरिंग एजेंट होता है। ऑरेंज कलर के जितने आप क्रैकर्स में देखेंगे किसके वजह से होता है, बेरियम की वजह से होता है। एंड फ्यूम्स कैन कॉज रिस्पिरेटरी एंड अदर हेल्थ डिजीज। आपकी जो रिस्पिरेटरी सिस्टम होता है लंग्स के साथ, ये क्या होता है, फ्यूम्स आपके स्टिक हो जाते हैं, ठीक है, तो वो आपके लिए बहुत ज़्यादा हार्मफुल है। नेक्स्ट वन वी कैन सी द नाइट्रेट्स, क्लोरेट्स एंड परकोलेट्स। ये होता है ऑक्सीडाइजिंग एजेंट, मतलब these compound can hamper the growth of small children and they remains airborne by 4 days and can be poisonous. So for the noise pollution cause, इसके अलावा अगर देखें apart from the toxic nature, apart from the like we can say the consequences that is the effect of the human health, if you talk about like for the noise pollution cause restlessness, temporary or permanent hearing loss, because as we know the firecrackers having the more than like 38 decibel sounds, which is somehow dangerous for the ear. So high blood pressure, sleep disturbance and even poor cognitive development in kids. So pollution created by firecrackers. So firecrackers increase the concentration of dust and pollutant in the air. After firing, the dust particle gets settled on the surrounding surfaces. So copper, zinc, sodium, lead, magnesium, cadmium and pollutant like oxide of sulfur and nitrogen also used. Copper, what is the copper used? Irritate the respiratory tract. Cadmium, we have discussed already, led to the anemia, which means loss of blood, by reducing the capacity of blood to carry oxygen. Because as we know that the red blood cells requires more oxygen in our body. But if we talk about the cadmium, which leads to the anemia, if the oxygen is not carrying by the RBC, we can say the patient must be suffering from the anemia, which is known to be a lack of or loss of blood. Zinc, we can say zinc can be used metal fume fever and induce vomiting, which means that minerals required for the body. As we know that all the minerals is required in our body, but if we consume lots of minerals in our body, then in that case that cannot be digested by our liver and pancreas, so it induces vomiting. Lead, which means we can simply say the shisha, so it harms the nervous system. And as we know that as per the guidelines of the Supreme Court, earlier it was seen in the news like the lead has been occurred in the मैगी बेसिकली मैगी मसाला. सो मैगी मसाला में लेड पाई गई थी और उसको फिर सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने हमारा बैन कर दिया था. आपने देखा होगा कि जो मैगी की प्राइस थी बहुत डाउन हो गई थी. फैक्ट्री ने फिर से जो हमारा फूड कॉर्पोरेशन ऑफ इंडिया है और फसाई की टीम है उन्होंने जाके इसको चेकआउट करा था. तो इसमें भी आपका लेड होता है. ये लेड क्यों देते हैं? बेसिकली उसका जो टेस्ट होता है वो खाने में बहुत अच्छा होता है. ठीक है, इट मेक्स द फूड डिलीशियस. सो दैट्स वाई द मोस्ट ऑफ द कंज्यूमर्स इट इज़ यूजिंग इट. तो बाद में उसे नेस्ले ने डिफाइन किया कि इसमें लेड की अमाउंट नहीं है. स्पेशली फिर मैगी में जो मसाला होता है आपका उसमें लेड की अमाउंट बहुत ज़्यादा होती है. उसको फिर गवर्नमेंट ने उसको बैन किया. और जैसे आपने देखा होगा कि जो आपका फूड होता है, जैसे आपने अगर रोटी है, गर्म रोटी है या परांठे, उसको आपने नॉर्मल जो न्यूज़पेपर होती है उसमें अगर आपने उसे फोल्ड कर दिया, इट मस्ट बी कंटैक्ट विथ लेड. देखिए लेड इज़ वाइड स्प्रेड यूज इन द पेपर इंडस्ट्री. तो आपका ये बहुत बार CUET ने इसको क्लैट के एग्जाम में पूछा गया था. आप देखें 2070 के क्वेश्चन में कि लेड इज़ यूज्ड इन समवेयर. तो जो आपका पेपर इंडस्ट्री है उसमें यूज़ करते हैं. लेकिन आप पेपर को जब खाने का कोई भी प्रोडक्ट है उसके साथ जब आप उसे रोल्ड करते हो तो किसके कंटेक्ट में आता है? लेड के कंटेक्ट में आता है, विच इज़ वेरी हार्मफुल फॉर द नर्वस सिस्टम. द नर्व सिस्टम में आपका ब्रेन हैमरेज एंड ऑल, ये सारी इन चीज़ों की वजह से ही होती है. सो वी शुड टू अवॉइड. एल्यूमिनियम फॉयल आप यूज़ कर सकते हैं खाने में, बट आप जो ये पेपर में आप रोल करते हो, किसी फूड को रोल करते हो, चाहे वो गर्म हो चाहे वो ठंडी हो, तो वो लेड के कंटैक्ट में आता है. ऑलरेडी आप एक तरह से वो पॉइजन बन चुका है, जो हमें नहीं अवॉइड करना चाहिए. एंड द मैग्नीशियम विच इज़ मेटल फ्यूम फीवर इज कॉज्ड बाय मैग्नीशियम फ्यूम्स. So as we can see, the consequences are too much detrimental for the human health, and we can say that we should to avoid, because of one, if we burn one crackers, it has a many consequences in terms of pollution, in terms of, as we can say that the air pollution, in terms of the maximum health hazards to be occurred in the atmosphere and as well as the human health. So further moving, next is cabinet approves PM Shri scheme. And PM Shri scheme is what exactly it is. So government schools will be selected if a state agrees to NEP entirely. What exactly is NEP? NEP, New Education Policy, is New Education Policy. When it was launched, New Education Policy is launched in 2020. And at the end of this YouTube session, guys, we will discuss about there are few questions that is based on NEP. So you will get a fair idea like what exactly this is. PM Shri scheme is PM Shri scheme is somehow, we can say, PM Shri scheme is somehow PM Shri scheme is somehow, that is, we can say that it is very beneficial for the for the one who is, we can say, so one, we can say that the PM Shri schemes is somehow is very important, like, because school will receive nearly 2 crore and the money and will be transferred directly to the school's account through direct benefit transfer. The principal or local committee will be given the flexibility to determine the use of 40% of the fund. एंड एजुकेशन मिनिस्टर कौन है हमारे भाई? एजुकेशन मिनिस्टर हमारे धर्मेंद्र प्रधान ने प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस में कहा कि जो पीएम श्री स्कीम है, सो वी हैव टू लुक एट वेरी फेयर आइडिया अबाउट व्हाट एग्जैक्टली द पीएम श्री स्कीम्स एंड व्हाट इज द एनईपी, व्हाट इज न्यू एजुकेशन पॉलिसी. सो हियर इट इज पीएम श्री स्कूल, प्रधानमंत्री स्कूल ऑफ राइजिंग इंडिया पीएम श्री योजना. It is a centrally sponsored scheme for upgradation and development for more than 14,500 schools across the country. It aims at strengthening the selected existing schools from the amongst schools managed by the central government, state government, UT government and local bodies. So make sure that this scheme is, first thing, centrally sponsored, which means that directly central government will be the, we can say, centrally sponsored, which means that central government will be the linchpin of the of this scheme, and this scheme is for the upgradation of development of more than 14,500 schools across the country. It means upgradation and development. It aims at strengthening the existing schools. Significance: it will showcase all components of new education policy 2020 and act as exemplar schools and also offer mentorship to the other schools their vicinity. Mentorship, it means that there may be, we can say, one person or one faculty, one mentor will be one would be guide to the many and train to the many students. The aim of this school will not only be qualitative teaching, learning and cognitive development, but also create holistic and well-rounded individuals equipped with the 21st century skills, which means that we can make them caliber to, we can make them caliber to think out like what was the process we need to learn, what were the technologies we can use it, which was the many YouTube channel which is a very essential for the students in need to watch. So there are many technical skills we need to make them like technical education, so that the students get very familiar to learn all these things. Focus will be on achieving proficiency in learning outcomes in every child in every grade. So we have to be achieve on proficiency in the learning outcomes in every child in every grade. Assessment at all level will be based on conceptual understanding and applications of knowledge in real life situations and will be competency based. These schools will be equipped with modern infrastructure including labs, smart classrooms, libraries, sports equipment, art room, etc., which is inclusive and accessible. These schools shall also be developed as green schools with water conservation, waste recycling, energy efficient infrastructure. Next, as we can see in the breather, for the coal plants draw anguish. So for the third time, Central extended deadline of fixing pollution control device. And as we know that we have signed COP26. The ministry first specified emission norms for the control of sulfur dioxide. And what is SO2? Which is present in acid rain also. Sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides and mercury, the coal fired, because the coal plant releases three types of coal plants, mainly release three: the SO2 sulfur dioxide, NO2 nitrous oxide, and we can say that Hg, which means that mercury. So if in your exam they will ask you like coal plant mainly issued what kind of gases in the atmosphere. So sulfur dioxide, which is somehow is responsible, or we can say solely responsible for the acid rain, nitrous oxide also, and Hg, which is, we can say, that's mercury. So coal is producing by the coal industry, so we can say it produces three gases: SO2, NO2 and Hg, mercury. And that if we read this article, that is caused and led to the, we can say, the PM 2.5 particle molecules is 2.5, which is very dangerous for the human being, because it is very harmful for the one who is inhaling this. Next one is the WHO, which is World Health Organization. World Health Organization to stress prevention of non-communicable disease. What is non-communicable disease? What is the role of WHO and what is the consequences? We will discuss in this article. So in short, that in article we discuss like what exactly this is article about. The member countries of World Health Organizations, Southeast Asia region, it has to be defined like non-prevention of and control of non-communicable disease, including oral and eye infections, we can say. So basically, in this article, which is mainly about like what is the WHO defining about non-communicable disease, and how can we measure and how can we curb this the disease as much as we can. So what is the non-communicable disease? We have to keep an eye what exactly this is. The basic funda is that we have to understand the nitty-gritty of the subject before proceeding the article. So that's why I have discussed all the articles with a simple and lucid language, so that irrespective of the students who is preparing in the government school, is preparing in the private schools, can make it very caliber to understand, can make you very easy for everyone, so that they can easily understand. Okay, non-communicable disease, which means that including heart disease, stroke, cancer, diabetes and chronic lung disease, collectively responsible to almost 70% of all this worldwide. This is a non-communicable disease. Non-communicable in short we can say जो communicate नहीं हो सकता, जैसे कोविड था आपका, which means that कोविड एक से दूसरों में फैलता है, तो ये आपका communicable है. कम्युनिकेबल मतलब जैसे आपको स्नीजिंग हो रही है, सर्दी हो रही है, खांसी हो रही है, आपके छींकने से बाकी लोगों को भी फैल सकता है. दैट इज काइंड ऑफ कम्युनिकेबल डिजीज. एंड नॉन कम्युनिकेबल मतलब किसी को हार्ट अटैक है तो जरूरी नहीं कि सामने वाले को भी हार्ट अटैक आ जाए, मतलब कम्युनिकेट नहीं कर सकते आप, आपकी वजह से किसी दूसरे को नहीं होगी. लाइक डायबिटीज, कैंसर. बट कैंसर वी कैन से इज अ काइंड ऑफ हेरिडिटरी. Cancer is somehow we can say is a hereditary, which means that like if your father was suffered from cancer, or maybe grandfather was suffered from cancer, there is an apprehension you might be suffered because somehow the gene would be responsible, as we know. So NCD, which means non-communicable disease, has been driven by tobacco, harmful use of alcohol, unhealthy diet, insufficient physical activities, overweight, obesity, जो आपका जो टोबैको प्रोडक्ट होते हैं उसका कंज्यूम करना, स्मोक, ड्रिंक, लाइक तंबाकू के डिफरेंट सारे फॉर्म्स उसको यूज़ करना, हैवी यूज़ ऑफ अल्कोहल, अनहेल्दी डाइट, इनसफिशिएंट फिजिकल एक्टिविटी, मोटापा चढ़ जाना, ओबेसिटी, रेज्ड ब्लड प्रेशर, रेज्ड ब्लड शुगर एंड रेज्ड कोलेस्ट्रॉल. और ये जब आपकी बॉडी में ये सारी चीज़ें, कोलेस्ट्रॉल का लेवल ज़्यादा होता है तो आपको पता है कोलेस्ट्रॉल इज़ नॉट रिक्वायर्ड बाय द ह्यूमन हार्ट एंड दैट इज़ वेरी 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 डेंजरस. सो आपने देखेंगे आजकल यंगस्टर्स को भी आपने देखा होगा कि पहले तो हार्ट अटैक बिलो मोर देन 45 ईयर्स के लोगों को होती थी. आजकल आपने देखा होगा बहुत सारे एक्ट्रेस इवन दो आर सफरिंग फ्रॉम द रेज्ड इन कोलेस्ट्रॉल लेवल. सो व्हाट आर द कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस? So epidemic and endemic, that is two different things. So epidemic of NCD, non-communicable disease, poses devastating health consequences of individuals, families and communities and threatens to overwhelm health system. The disease kills 7 out of 10 people globally from risk factors like tobacco, alcohol. और ये मेजर फैक्टर्स हैं. ऐसा होने के क्या क्या रीजंस है? बहुत ज़्यादा मैक्सिमम यूज़ करना टोबैको प्रोडक्ट्स के, अल्कोहल यूज़ करना, अनहेल्दी डाइट करना. फॉर एग्जांपल किसी दिन आप 1 PM पे लंच कर रहे हो, किसी दिन आप 3 PM पे लंच कर रहे हो, किसी दिन 4 PM पे लंच कर रहे हो. अनहेल्दी, और ये आपका टाइम टेबल फिक्स नहीं है, अनहेल्दी डाइट है, मतलब फास्ट फूड बहुत ज़्यादा है, इसमें बाहर का तला हुआ खाना खाते हो. दैट काइंड ऑफ एक्टिविटी वी शुड टू अवॉइड. So apart from the lives they take, non-communicable disease takes a heavy toll on economies, cutting down people in their most productive years. So obvious that reason that is impact on economies also. For example, the person is X is not supposed to healthy, so that we can say that the contributions in a XYZ company will be very less, and the obvious reason the person is supposed to be very senior in the position, that company will be lagging behind for that particular reason, so that we can say it somehow impact the economy. This is I'm talking about simple one company. Think about in a state, in a city, in your vicinity, there are many companies is there. So what would be the consequences if it impact to the state level, if it impact to the world, if impact to the world economy also. As we can say that the NCD non-communicable disease deaths, 82% of the 16 million people who died prematurely or before reaching 70 years of the age. So data analysis for India, according to the study report, India Health of the National State, Nation's State. The India State Level Disease Burden Initiative 2017 made by ICMR, which is Indian Council of Medical Research, it estimated that the proportion of death due to non-communicable disease in India have increased from 36.9% to 1980 from 61%, which is somehow is to be doubled. The four major NCDs are cardiovascular disease, which means heart attack, heart disease, CVD, cancer, chronic respiratory disease, asthma and all, diabetes, which shares four behavioral risk factor: unhealthy diet, lack of physical activity, use of tobacco and alcohol. So at the worldwide, we can say why the people are suffering from the heart disease, cancer and chronic respiratory system. There are the four major reasons. First, unhealthy diet. Unhealthy diet, lack of physical activities, okay. Sorry for the inconvenience. So here is we can say that there are 7 million people who are okay. So maximum risk factor: unhealthy diet, lack of physical activity. Sorry for the inconvenience, guys. There was some kind of network glitch. That's why it happened. Okay. Use of tobacco and alcohol. Treatment and management NCD are largely preventable and treatable. Nearly 7 million lives could be saved for just 0.084% per year now until 2030. So management of NCD includes detecting, screening and treating these diseases and providing access to palliative care of people in need. What is the role of WHO in this concern? WHO mission to provide leadership and evidence based of international action on surveillance, prevention of and control of NCD. Next article is inflation is not red lettered priority for government now, says FM. So RBI is using CPI, Consumer Price Index, because Consumer Price Index is, we can say, the value goods and services both can be calculated by the economy. So that's why CPI is RBI is using. Why not wholesale price index to be measured? Earlier it was wholesale price index Can anyone say that? Can anyone tell that who was the person, which committee was recommended to RBI to use the CPI, which is Consumer Price Index in India? So basically, why we are not using its wholesale price index to measure inflation in India? Because wholesale price index is only thinking about only goods, not about services. That's why we RBI given priority to CPI, to value of goods and services also. Ashok Gulati writes, precision farming needs to be promoted to get more output with less exploitation of natural resources. This is an Indian Express article. Let's see. So the Green Revolution in India in 1960 enabled the nation to make great strides in domestic food production and significantly contributed to progress in agriculture and allied sector. It transformed India from food deficit nation and to a food surplus export oriented country. In India, 70% of rural households still depend primarily on agriculture. We can say 70% as per the data. For their livelihood, with 82% of farmers being small and marginal farmers. However, now India is facing second generation problems, especially related to sustainability, nutrition, the adoption of new agriculture technologies, and income levels of population depending on farming. So basically the Green Revolution, so who was the father of Green Revolution? The father of Green Revolution, M.S. Swaminathan. M.S. Swaminathan was the person who started the Green Revolution in India. Significance of agriculture, obvious, it is good for the food security and induce health in the industrial sector. Flourishing agriculture production in India is the main factor behind the food security of the large Indian population. Agriculture supplies raw material to various agro-based industries like sugar, jute, cotton textile, and vanaspati industries. So there are many things we need to discuss. So what are the current challenges confronting Indian agriculture? Obvious that unavailability of good quality seeds. So that's why though there are many schemes had to be launched by the Ministry of Agriculture, that there is a kind of one farm and one shop of the which is occupied by the government of India, and farmers suggested to buy the seed from the particular place that is owned by the government of India. So that's why unavailability of good quality seeds, lack of modern equipments and machinery, because the farmers is not literate, so they are able to access YouTube and different website of ministry, but somehow as we see that around 70 to 80% of the farmers are not well educated or well literate, so they have a not good financial literacy, and we can say the technological assessment is required for the farmers also. A small and fragmented land holding, because there's a small land, so that we can say that there is a kind of things that a small land, the people is somehow is not growing too much food for their livelihood. Inadequate storage facility for those farmers which have a maximum land can produce too much food in their cropping field, but we can say there is an inadequate storage facility and poor irrigation facility also. So that is the main challenges of Indian agriculture. And what is the government initiative for the development of agriculture sector? E-Naam portal, Parampragat Krishi Vikas Yojana. Parampragat Krishi Vikas Yojana is from the traditional farmer, Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, and micro irrigation fund. And we can say that government are promoting the organic farming, which means that we will not use any kind of pesticides. That is known to be any kind of pesticides. That is known to be organic farming, and agri-stack also. So here is the next one is content moderation on Wikipedia. The article is that India has summoned official to the Wikipedia, as Ashdeep Singh Wikipedia has been changed, edited, as there are lots of articles that is based on simple. We can say that the Wikipedia, that the person have an authority to change this, but if you change some suspicious data, then no other people can see it very easily. So there is no many things that we need to discuss in this article. So now here are the questions of the day. Greeting of the day, that questions of the day, which means that in the end of the YouTube session we discussed about 3 to 5 questions at the end of the YouTube session. As we know, here is I just told you the new education policy 2020. So you have to read the content very carefully, what exactly the questions is asking about. This questions level is somehow seems to be difficult one for the UG students, but make sure that if you are able to solve there are three level of question: the easy, then the moderate, then the high level questions. If you have practiced high level questions in your exam, if there is a question say from the easy level or we can say moderate level, you will be capable enough to solve the questions. But what about if you have practiced the easy level questions, moderate level questions, but in your actual exam, if there are questions was from the high level, in that time you will trap in such kind of questions. So what I want that you need to develop such kind of temperament that would be very essential for the students who is preparing for the exam. So take your time and try to solve. Take your time, 60 seconds, and try to solve the question. Okay, so first one we can say new education policy is the second education policy approved by the government after independence. Somehow this statement is suspicious. The second statement, new education policy has been drafted by the committee headed by Kasturi Rangan. Yes, this is correct one. Second one, in India education is a concurrent subject. Concurrent, I just told you there are three lists: state list, state list, central list and concurrent list. Concurrent list में वो subjects होती हैं which the both the states and center have power to change the things. So concurrent subject and both the center and state government can make laws on it. So yes, education is the especially for the state subject, but government can make a law on that. So second and third statement C would be incorrect. So answer will be here second and third. So yes, the new NEP, new education policy, usually comes along every few decades. India has had three to date. The first came in 1968. The first was 1968. New education policy was occurred in 1968. Second in 1986. New NEP, new education policy under Indira Gandhi and Rajiv Gandhi respectively. NEP of 1986 was revised in 1992 when the P.V. Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister. Third is the NEP released under the Prime Ministership of Narendra Modi. The NEP only provides a broad direction of is not mandatory to follow. Since education is a concurrent subject, both the center and state government can make laws on it. The reforms proposed can only be implemented collaboratively by the center and states. New education policy has been drafted by a committee headed by former ISRO chief, ISRO chief, Indian Space of Research Organization chief Kasturi Rangan. So Kasturi Rangan committee was first time recommended to transform education system because there are lots of QR based books and the new technological advancement was changed in that time. So that's why Kasturi Rangan committee was first time recommended to come up with the new education policy. So C was the correct answer. So again, Raman Magsaysay Award, consider the following statement. The Raman Magsaysay Award is often considered to be an Asian equivalent to the Nobel Prize. मतलब एशिया का नोबेल प्राइज आप इसे कह सकते हैं. Second statement, the award is there is the data was missing, so just give me a second. Here is the second statement. Here is the first statement. Second was the award is given to individuals and organizations from Asia region for their service to the society. So the answer would be, take your time. Yes, both the statement is correct. As we know that Arvind Kejriwal will got Raman Magsaysay Award for the courageous leadership के लिए उनको मिली थी. रमन मैग्सेसे अवार्ड मिली थी 2007 में. और like NDTV like Ravish Kumar will also got Raman Magsaysay Award. Can anyone tell that when and which year Raman Magsaysay Award was given to the Ravish Kumar, which is an NDTV reporter? And Raman Magsaysay is a Philippines president or prime minister. उनके नाम पे रखा गया ये. See, Raman Magsaysay Award launched in 1958. Raman Magsaysay Award, widely considered to be the Asia equivalent to the Nobel Prize, recognizes outstanding leadership and communitarian contribution in Asia. Who was Raman Magsaysay? Raman G. Ferrario Magsaysay Sr. was the 7th president of Philippines. तो Philippines के president थे, इनके नाम पे रखा गया from 1953 until his death in air crash in 1957. So ये एशिया का नोबेल प्राइज क्या जाता है? Raman Magsaysay Award. Next one. Article 22 grants protection to persons who are arrested or detained. The article we have already discussed in yesterday class. Both the parliament as well as the state legislature can concurrently make a laws on preventive detention for reason connected with the security of a state. So we have discussed already about preventive detention. Preventive detention, which means that if one person is arrested and that arrested person can violates the many people is like living on the vicinity of the particular area, that person can be easily detained for the obvious reason, for the sovereignty and integrity of the country. So that person can be easily detained, and that detention cannot be punished too much, but we can say that if the person is arrested, might be they can provoke to the many people who is living over there, because if the X person is is having the public consensus of more than 2,000 people, if the X person is not detained on that times, that 2,000 people can be on the that started stone pelting, and that can be many consequences. So that is kind of preventive detention. मतलब एक तरह से बचाव करने के लिए आपने उसको detain कर लिया. So both the statement first and second is correct. The answer would be here C, both 1 and 2. Yes, Article 22 grants protection to person who are arrested or detained. Detention is two types, namely punitive and preventive. Punitive detention is to punish a person for an offence committed by him. For example, like if you have murdered someone, if you have if you have murdered any political party, that is known to be a punitive detention. After trial and conviction in a court, preventive detention is the other hand means detention of a person without trial and conviction by a court. Because for the obvious that reason I just mentioned out, preventive detention in other hand means detention of a person without trial, not a trial. After no court trial is required for the preventive detention or conviction by a court. Statement second is that Constitution have divided the legislative power with regard to preventive detention between the Parliament and the state legislature. The Parliament has exclusive authority to make a laws on preventive detention for a reason connected with the defence, foreign affairs and security of India, which we have already shared that if the government thinks like the person is vulnerable in terms of they can provoke the many people of their region, or we can say that their vicinity, then government can arrest that particular person. Both the Parliament as well as the state legislature can concurrently make a laws on preventive detention for a reason connected with the security of a state, the maintenance of public order and maintenance of supplies and services essential to the community. So this is what it is about preventive detention. So I hope guys this YouTube session was somehow it was good for everyone who was the class. I hope that the many students have been query. Please let me know in the comment section if there anything that we can do for you, and I hope that you enjoy the class. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this class, please share to the maximum number of students, colleague, and we can say friends, so that the maximum number of students and your friend can get benefited. Thank you so much for watching. We'll meet on the Monday. Stay tuned on Monday at sharp 11:30 a.m. Bye bye, take care, and good night. And I'm telling you good night, because the reason we'll meet in the 3 days later. Bye bye and take care. Thank you.